Welcome back. All right, so we're gonna change things up a little bit. For Vegas reasons, in year one was something I said about the Vegas Golden Knights because they would win games that I had no idea how they'd won them, and so I was like, for Vegas reasons, they won. And it was a way for me saying, I don't know what happened, but hey, they won the game. Good for them. Now, Vegas reasons might have to change its meaning. Vegas reasons might be about trying to get under the cap and trying to bail yourself out of a mess you got yourself into. I'm not even going to get into the free agent signings. I've talked about Vegas with this before. I just want to talk about trades. And I want to talk about trades that Vegas has made where they were questionable at the time. There were certainly questions asked. And then other things take place. So the first trade they made that was questionable was when they acquired Thomas Tatar from Detroit for a 2019 second round draft pick, a 2018 first, which became Joe Veleno, and a 2021 third. Now, to this point, Veleno's the only one in the NHL. Tatar, it didn't work out in Vegas. Now, to Vegas's credit, they right away understood this wasn't working out. He ends up being a healthy scratch. And so while there was some clear discomfort between himself and the team, they end up moving him. And they acquired Max Pacioretty from the Montreal Canadiens. So they acquired Max Pacioretty. Now, in order to get Montreal to take Tatar, well, it can't be done one for one. So they throw in their former first-round draft pick, Nick Suzuki, as well as a 2019 second-round pick, which, to this point, Norlinder hasn't made the NHL. Once he does that, that trade becomes more lopsided. I think we can all state pretty comfortably, Nick Suzuki is a very good forward in the National Hockey League. Tatar had a decent run with Montreal. Pacioretty did have a decent run with Vegas. Absolutely, I will say yes. But from a cap perspective, this is where the issue starts to come in. Vegas is one of those teams where if we didn't have a salary cap, I think their salaries would be in the $150 million. Like, I don't think there'd be a ceiling for this owner. I think they would just keep going out and getting the biggest money, biggest name guys. It's kind of a Vegas thing. So then the next big deal is them acquiring Mark Stone from Ottawa along with Tobias Lindbergh. They signed Stone to a massive extension, something Ottawa was unwilling or unable to do, and probably a little bit of both. They look at Stone and they say, $9.5 million. Now, Stone is one of the best two-way forwards in the National Hockey League. Absolutely, bar none. Going the other way was Oscar Lindbergh. They get Tobias Lindbergh, so there's a Lindbergh for Lindbergh deal there. Eric Brandstrom went the other way, a former first-round draft pick, who right now looks like he could very well be in the top four for Ottawa this coming year. Might be top six, top four. Definitely in the lineup, though. And a 2020 second, which became Igor Sokolov. Now, Sokolov, depends on how you view him, what kind of ceiling you think he has. But again, this is trading out prospects. You've now lost Brandstrom, Suzuki, Sokolov, and it's something that Vegas has been doing with regularity to pick up these highly valued assets. Then they acquired, in a trade with New Jersey, a 2020 third and 2021 second, because they couldn't sign Nikita Gusev. So rather than lose his rights for nothing, they traded him to New Jersey. Now, in their defense again, Gusev did not work out at the NHL level. Absolutely did not. So the idea that, when they got Gusev in the whole expansion draft and all this, it didn't work out well for them, right? It didn't work out well for them. That's okay. They get back these draft picks. Then they make a trade with LA. They acquire Alec Martinez in exchange for a 2020 second and a 2021 second round pick. Now, those picks have not reached the NHL for LA yet either. But again, it's picking up a player with a pretty decent high cap hit in exchange for draft picks, right? So Vegas, I like Martinez. I think he's a good player. I'm still mostly okay with this deal. I think this deal's fine. Then they had to trade Paul Stastny to Winnipeg. They needed some cap space, so they get Carl Dahlstrom back and a 2022 fourth-round pick. Now, that's a trade where, if you're looking at the asset acquired, Winnipeg wins that trade because Stastny's the best player in the trade. But again, Vegas looking for that cap space. And then, in the ultimate deal to try to get cap space, they take Marc-Andre Fleury, who they made a chocolate model of, right? It was at the Bellagio, and I missed it by one day. But he ends up being traded to Chicago for Mikhail Hakkarainen. No matter, they bought him out. They bought out his contract. So they traded Marc-Andre Fleury to Chicago for nothing in exchange for money, for that cap space. And it is that elusive, trying to win that Stanley Cup that seems to be driving all this. So Evgeny Dodonov is then acquired from Ottawa in exchange for Nick Holden in the 2022 third. Dodonov, good goal scorer for Vegas. Holden had played out his time in Vegas, moves on. I thought he had a decent run with Ottawa. And so, yeah. But Dodonov, of course, I'm not even going to get into the trade deadline. I am not getting into the trade that never happened with Anaheim. So they then acquired Jack Eichel. This is our new guy, right? And he still is considered to be one of the best young forwards in the game. But the price they pay, Alex Tuch, good young forward, right? Who was with this team from the beginning when they really honestly just ripped off Minnesota in the expansion process. Peyton Krebs, a former first-round draft pick. So you've got a former first-round draft pick here, as well as here, and a 2022 first, and a 2023 second. So there is the potential that trade with Buffalo could look terrible. But what's interesting is, so you've got the Eichel deal that kind of makes their situation worse on some level. That's a $10 million cap hit, which they've never seemed to be concerned with. They've never seemed to be concerned with what an individual's cap hit is. And we all know that every team has a capologist. I would love to talk to the capologist, because this trade, again, once Tuch hit Buffalo, it just worked. He has been very, very good in Buffalo. I think Tuch's been better in Buffalo than he was in Vegas. So this is a video that needs 2 boards. Yeah, we need 2 boards. So first off, Shea Weber is acquired. The contract for Shea Weber is acquired this summer. To Montreal, they gave them Evgeny Dodonov. Now, what got me with this trade is Dodonov gets traded to Anaheim. And Dodonov says, no, I've got a no movement clause. No. Vegas says, no, you don't. And Ottawa had told them that he didn't, that had been void. So it turns out that it's not void. And to Vegas's credit, they bring him back. They say, fine. And he was one of their best forwards as they try to push their way towards a playoff spot. There were some guys out there, including Mark Stone, who did not seem to be 100%. There was talk about them forcing guys to come back before maybe they were ready. And so there was a lot of discussions when it comes to Vegas and what they were doing here. And then after Dodonov does all that for them, they traded him away to Montreal for Weber. So what has happened now, the reason for this video now is Max Pacioretty is now a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. Along with Max Pacioretty is Dylan Coghlan has been traded by Vegas. And in exchange, future considerations going back to Vegas or nothing. Future considerations gets talked about a lot. And we've had a joke, and sure, at some point I could do a video where I talk about all the trades that have future considerations, but it is very rare that and so I've had people ask me, what does future considerations mean? The idea is simple. You and I sit down and I say, look, I've got this asset. I'm not really interested in what I'm going to get back now, or it might be we'll talk about who we're going to bring back my way later, right? So that trade becomes one-sided, but then later maybe I'll name that player. Now, I think one of the reasons why future considerations was brought in, and I feel like it was changed because there were points where a player that might end up being part of the trade going the other way would stay with the team briefly. Which makes it sound like a little bit of cheating, which kind of sort of is, right? Well, I'll keep that guy and I'll trade him to you after the playoffs. How does that sound? Sure, no problem. What's happened now is you've got Pacioretty, who played 39 games this year, 19 goals, 18 assists, 37 points. They had to trade him. You can only be 10% above the salary cap in the offseason. And you do not have LTIR in the offseason. You can have, there's LTIR. LTIR is in itself something that will induce head explosions. That's why I don't get into all the weeds of the LTIR, because it will lead to your head, and I'd rather not have all these jerseys splattered. They were $2,657,143 above the cap, according to Cap Friendly, before this trade, because Cap Friendly has not recorded this trade yet. So Coghlan ends up being thrown in with Pacioretty. You have to think Coghlan would have had some value, but they have to make it so they're trading for nothing just to get themselves under the cap, because they have Colasar, they have Raw, they have Haig, their RFAs. They have not signed Riley Smith. They haven't announced the Riley Smith contract where he was supposed to be signed for another 3 years at $5 million per, because they can't. In all likelihood, they can't. In all likelihood, they've already got some guys agreed to come back. They can't sign them. They can't make it official because they put them more than 10% above the cap. So you trade Pacioretty, yeah, that gets you underneath the cap by about $5 million, right? But once you've signed Haig's going to get paid, and you sign Smith right to the $5 million, yeah, even that LTIR, well, that helps once the regular season gets started. Vegas just finds themselves up against it. And again, they're giving away these assets. Dodonov, 20-25 goal scorer? Nothing. You get Shea Weber's contract back for LTIR consideration. Pacioretty. Yeah, he missed half the season. Pacioretty does get hurt. When he's healthy, he can still push 40 goals. You get nothing. Asset management has been a problem for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I've talked about it in videos before, and I have this strange sneaking suspicion I'll talk about it again. And there are fans that will follow this team down this rabbit hole and continue to say, you know what, it's fine, because. And the reasons are there for because. But what I see is a team that just missed the playoffs, traded away 2 of their goal scorers, essentially got bupkis for those goal scorers. They don't have money to be in on basically the most exciting UFA market I think we've ever seen, where Johnny Hockey, who might be one of the best in their prime goal scorers, well, at least point producers that's ever been in free agency, isn't available. Johnny Gaudreau in Vegas would have been a hit. That would have been huge. My guess is, if I had to say who was next, William Karlsson. My guess is next, they'll try to find a taker for William Karlsson. I don't think they're done trying to find that next big name, that next big guy. Who's the next big guy? But there's a problem with this too. You create a situation where, let's say you're a free agent next year's free agent class, and you're getting offered $5 million for 4 years by the New York Rangers. You're being offered $6 million for those same 4 years by the Vegas Golden Knights. You look at the two teams' histories and you go, if I sign 4 years with the Rangers, I probably play 4 years with the Rangers. If I sign 4 years with Vegas, I might be gone in a year. So that has to enter their minds at some point. These are players who have families. I always talk about families make a difference, and all of the wonderment that is having a nice long-term contract and security, so you can buy a house, you can enroll your kids in school, you're not worried about all this day-to-day stuff. And at Vegas, which it's odd because Summerlin's a really nice community, Henderson's a nice community. There are areas around Vegas where you can raise a family, and it's nice, and it's a good place to live. But it's just, it feels like it's just hired guns. And now Pacioretty has been added to the list of players who were hired guns, and he's just gone. And so the idea that, well, it'll be fine because they just missed the playoffs. And so we're no longer in a position where, well, as long as they're healthy. Well, not necessarily. Smith's in his 30s, and he was injured a lot of this past season as well. William Karlsson's numbers have been down. If they decide to try to move his contract, it may not be that easy. I just wonder how far this goes, right? Like if Leonard gets off to a rough start, do they move him too? And yeah, it feels like it's a continual machine that just keeps rolling. And I feel like the plan was to win a Stanley Cup in the first 5 years. The expansion draft they hit out of the park. They nailed that first season. Everything was great. The whole Misfits thing worked. They get all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And maybe because they got that Stanley Cup final experience, they went, all right, now all we need to do is add this and this and we're good. Whatever it was, it hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And I'm not even covering all the questionable deals. I'm just covering the most questionable deals. There are others. There have been others. And so the question becomes, at what point do we start to hear there's a 10-team no-trade list for this player and Vegas is on it? It's unthinkable. Unthinkable as recently as 3 years ago. I'll say 3 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. But there have to be players that would say that. Would say, I wanna settle. I wanna have a place where I can feel like I can settle down. My wife and kids, we can all settle down. We're not worried about that. I don't have to worry about being traded or waived because of my contract. And so it definitely, I think it makes a difference. think it has to make a difference with players, might make a difference with agents too. Although once they get paid, when that contract gets paid out, I don't know how much concern. Some agents I feel like do have a lot of concern about the day-to-day with their players. I don't know if all agents are built that way, but it's an interesting story Vegas continues to tell. As Max Pacioretty is now a Carolina Hurricane, and so is Coghlan for nothing. So because Carolina had the cap space, and I wore their jersey for that live stream, did they do this during the live stream? Of course not. No. Now they waited until after. Must have seen the jersey and went, "We'll wait. We'll wait till later." They've got to stop. It's at some point. At some point, asset management has to matter, rather than we can just move that money out and then we can sign this and then it's all good. Because for a team that we all agree should bounce back and be in the playoffs next year, I don't know. What I saw in free agency today tells me that might be not so much of a given. If you're an LA Kings, if you're a Vancouver Canucks, if you're an Edmonton Oilers, and if Calgary can figure out a replacement for Gaudreau and get Tkachuk signed and get that all straightened out, you might be looking and going, you know what? Vegas should be 5th at best in the division, right? So we'll see. Because again, I think success gets measured in the end by whether or not you win a Stanley Cup. You can have a great era. If you don't win a Stanley Cup in that era, it doesn't have that same luster. And that is what Vegas has been chasing. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do they get closer with moves like this? Will they prove everybody wrong? Let me know your thoughts. I'd be very interested to know your thoughts in this matter. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.